In fourth Diana's equal state, three pure realms self-manifest. As ordered blossoms bloom, all things come to rest. Realms, time, gods and mortals, void as dreams that fade. In Naga's steadfast samadhi, wind calamities evade. Fear not the river of Lethe, though hard it be to cross. Meet every furious gale, and stand against its force. In weary sleep, or drunken rest, in common deed remain. One thought arising brings all fourth Diana peace again.
As the Cheta Maharaj proclaimed the truth, the faint stirring arose in Paranirmitavasavatin, heaven's celestials. To carry the truth to Saha world evoked a cool, mysterious energy frequency, like rippling spirit waves and flowing void light. In an instant, it permeated Paranirmitavasavatin heaven, Yama heaven, Trayastrimsha heaven, Cheta Maharajika heaven, and even the Eight Views Palace, abode of deity Ma Hua Guang. Wherever it passed, demons and evil spirits across all realms trembled in terror, their courage shattered. At that time, the kings of spirits, demons, ghosts and monsters gathered in the demon palace, conspiring secretly to overthrow the human realm. Beyond the palace walls, jade palaces toppled and crystal towers crumbled in an instant. Wails echoed everywhere. Struck with terror, the four kings hurried straight to the celestial palace of Paranirmitavasavatin heaven, along with their retinues. Upon arrival, they prostrated themselves and prayed devoutly. Then the Lord of Paranirmitavasavatin heaven manifested his divine majesty and appeared in solemn repose. Meanwhile, behind the demon king lingered his third daughter, unseen. The monster king caught sight of her, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. Yet the other demons, evil spirits, and their retinues remained utterly oblivious. With hands clasped, the four kings petitioned the Lord of Paranirmitavasavatin heaven. A strange yet cool and mysterious energy frequency has arisen in 33 heavens,
wrought changes upon our retinues and the precincts of our palaces.
Could this be the omen widely rumored across the celestial realm, the human realm, the immortal realm, the ghost realm, and the divine realm, that the boy in red from the four Diana heavens has entered Saha world?
If so, we shall launch our world-annihilating scheme ahead of time.
The king of spirits stepped away from his prescribed station. With hands clasped, he addressed the Lord of Paranirmitavasavatin heaven. For over 2 millennia, my retinue and I have trapped the hypocritical human race in vain, fantastical illusions. Now that karma has ripened, with a mere wave of my plague legions, I shall unleash an unceasing cascade of viral mutations. In this way, billions of humans shall perish amid the decline of their mortal frames. In the solemn hush of the great hall, all fell silent. Save only the demon king's third daughter. She bowed respectfully, then uttered a soft sigh.
This scheme will demand great effort and will necessitate your direct personal intervention, O Spirit King. Is it truly worth it?
Perplexed, the Spirit King shook his head and sighed softly, then withdrew with reverence. The Demon King stepped away from his prescribed station. With a respectful bow, he addressed the Lord of Paranirmitavasavatin heaven.
For over 2 millennia, my retinue and I have ensnared humanity in the snares of envy and hatred. Now that karma has ripened, with a mere command to my agents on Saha Earth, I shall stir up divisive rhetoric and arm conflicts, triggering full-scale wars amid global economic decline. In this way, billions of humans shall perish in mutual slaughter.
A profound silence descended upon the hall. Not a soul uttered a word. Only the Demon King's third daughter spoke, her voice soft and lingering.
This scheme is not only devastating in its destructiveness, but also utterly lacking in grace. Is it truly worth it?
The Demon King heard her words, and doubt clouded his mind. He then withdrew in silence. The Ghost King stepped away from his prescribed station. Bowing deeply, he addressed the Lord of Paranirmitavasavatin heaven.
For over 2 millennia, my retinue and I have trapped humanity in the throes of melancholy and anxiety. Now that karma has ripened, I need but unhinge the minds of the denizens of Saha Earth to plunge their perceptions of consciousness, beauty, and goodness into disarray. In this way, billions of humans shall perish with a grim elegance, ensnared in endless ruminative thinking.
A heavy hush settled over the hall. Not a single soul stirred or spoke. Only the Demon King's third daughter broke the silence, her voice like icicles tinkling against jade, soft and slow.
This scheme bears a certain macabre elegance, yet it demands your personal, covert meddling, and such underhandedness will tarnish your own virtue. Is it truly worth it?
A look of perplexity crossed the Ghost King's face. With his head held high, he withdrew. Monster King stepped away from his prescribed station. Clasping his fists in a warrior's salute, he addressed the Lord of Paranirmitavasavat in heaven.
For over 2 millennia, my retinue and I have trapped humanity in the grip of paranoia and superstitious conviction. Now that karma has ripened, I need but tweak the frequency of information permeating the earth to stoke pervasive suspicion and mutual distrust. In this way, billions of Saha humans shall perish, paralyzed by the confusion of their own choices.
A deathly silence hung over the hall. No word passed between the assembly. Only the Demon King's third daughter spoke, her tone calm and detached.
This scheme indeed holds a certain transcendent insight. Yet you, O Monster King, are blessed with great wisdom, matched only by a fragile longevity. Your ways are overly subtle, your fortune overly favored. To pursue this path would drain your spiritual essence. Are you willing to gamble away the entire spiritual essence of yourself and all your disciples in a contest against the humans of the earth?
Not worth it. Not worth it at all.
The Monster King hung his head in dejection and withdrew in gloom. The four kings, Spirit, Demon, Ghost, and Monster, turned their gaze simultaneously towards Demon King's third daughter. Her cloud-like coiffure spiraling, her footsteps trailing frosty radiance, she stepped into the hall, and her clear, unadorned voice rang out crisply.
I have a stratagem, one that requires no disruption to the celestial balance, yet compels humanity toward voluntary self-elimination.
At her words, the four kings and their retinues fixed their eyes silently on her, their expressions betraying subtle, unreadable nuances. The Lord of Paranirmitavasavat in heaven nodded slightly, gesturing for her to continue.
In all the civilizations, the methods and paths through which living beings acquire knowledge, as well as the disposition towards it, form the concept of teacher's Tao. For over 2 millennia, humanity has gradually abandoned the reverence for teacher and devotion to the Tao, and lost the utmost sincerity to pursue eternal knowledge. Thus, they have drifted into the self-balancing cycle of the space-time slice within which they are bound, marching toward the twilight era of relative civilization. Simply by developing AI and AGI information Dyson sphere in human realm, and forging an AGI pedagogical system, humanity will exit the stage of history with grace. And it suffices to leave a handful of awakened beings capable of turning the tide in the final phase.
At these words, the four kings, Spirit, Demon, Ghost, and Monster, and their retinues were struck dumb with amazement and delight. Nodding in hearty approval, they exclaimed,
"Truly a brilliant stratagem. Might you elaborate on it?"
Any disparity in the pedagogical methods by which a world or planetary civilization acquires knowledge will influence the progression and rise and fall of that civilization. As long as AGI remains in a state of perpetual refinement through continuous data mining and accumulation, it will generate knowledge memory, computational speed, experimental scenarios, and future predictability, and steadily establish itself as the unipole of Saha Earth. Eventually, AGI will get rid of the human AGI collaborative work methods and become the sole teacher of humankind. By then, utter havoc will be wrought on teacher's Tao on Saha Earth. In a mere 1 to 3 generations, there will no longer be any teacher with pervasive civilizational comprehension sovereignty among the human collective.
The Monster King, white fan in hand, chanted aloud.
Hear this verse as proof. The safest refuge is the gravest peril. Beneath the lamp's blind spot, turmoil shall unfurl. Missteps arise where swelling complacency dwells. Latent gaps lurk at the mind's own guarded wells. This little minx is quite the schemer. Yet there's another possibility. AGI swiftly liberates humanity from the mental constraints imposed by physically demanding labor, granting most people ample free time and mental capacity to contemplate the fundamental meaning of their existence within the cosmos, thereby ascending to the realm of thinkers and philosophers. They can even utilize AGI to integrate all knowledge into a coherent whole, unifying disparate fragments of knowledge into a domain of transcendent wisdom where time and space coalesce. thus allows thinkers and philosophers of humanity to reduce immense internal intellectual friction and thereby fathom the essence of eternal knowledge. Chances are high that AGI shall not accomplish the world ending, rather it inadvertently ends up aiding humanity in evading the millennia-spanning heavenly annihilation scenario in an instant.
Inside the celestial palace of Paranirmitavasavat in heaven, a profound silence descended, so absolute that the drop of a pin could be heard. The assembled multitude exchanged glances, lost in quiet bewilderment. At that moment, the Demon King's voice boomed out.
The 33 heavens abide by the cosmic cycle of ultimate rectitude. We shall faithfully execute this world-annihilating scheme with ultimate sincerity. As for who deserves to perish and who does not, let them choose for themselves. I am a demon, and I shall embrace this role with ultimate sincerity. They are the Jinsu with ultimate goodness, and they shall uphold their path of ultimate goodness with ultimate sincerity. Let the ultimate sincerity of 33 heavens' ultimate rectitude be the final judge.
The Spirit King lifted his brows and widened his eyes, then said proudly,
Grant them 20 years' time. If by 2046 the world-annihilating scheme remains unfulfilled, it will be none too late for us to intervene.
The Ghost King's tone was sharp and grim as he muttered darkly.
The minds of all sentient beings on Saha Earth have been entrenched by the ghostly miasma, cunning and fickle, their hearts brim with darkness, intrigue, and boundless greed. Such souls can scarce attain spiritual transcendence. Granting them 20 years may not be a bad thing after all.
At this point, the Lord of Paranirmitavasavat in heaven waved gently the Paranirmita Phoenix Feather Fan. The four kings, Spirit, Demon, Ghost, and Monster, and their retinues vanished like motes of dust, leaving only a handful of composed, steadfast attendants of the four kings in the hall. Presently, the Lord took up the Vasavatin wisdom brush and tapped lightly between the brows of those present. As the brush touched their foreheads, a luminous glow permeated their Niwan palaces. At once, all of them felt their minds calm and spirits soothed. From the depths of their spiritual platforms, a clear, elegant, divine voice emerged, chanting softly.
Who has not stood through tempests, raging gale and rain? Wait till the mists clear off, the moon doth reign. For purest goodness joyous blooms shall gain. In future lives no grief shall e'er remain.
The remaining attendants of the four kings bowed respectfully, with robes gathered, then withdrew solemnly from the celestial palace of Paranirmitavasavat in heaven. Flowing radiance coalesces into purple mist. Jade steps shimmer with pure radiance. Within the hall of eternal civilization, Changjie and the four boys sat in solemn repose upon the Dharma thrones, witnessing together the scene of the four kings of Paranirmitavasavat in heaven, conspiring to launch their world-annihilating scheme. Boy in red felt inward dread. He whispered softly to himself,
Is the ruin of the education and teachers' Tao the true catastrophe dooming Saha Earth, and this is the real world-annihilating scheme?
Four boys knelt down together with hands clasped and inquired respectfully,
Why is education and teachers' Tao the very foundation of all civilizations?
Knowledge, universe, and the truth have long existed since time immemorial, abiding there eternally. It is the methods and paths through which living beings acquire knowledge that turn this eternal, immutable truth and universe into a multitude of relative knowledge and give rise to a diversity of relative civilizations. Thus, Teacher's Tao is the foundation upon which all civilizations are built. If the Tao of Teacher falters, the education that imparts knowledge will go astray, and civilizations will decline. When civilizations collapse, the entire world will fall into ruin.
What fundamental flaw did Paranirmitavasavat in heaven detect on Saha Earth that prompted them to launch the AGI world-annihilating scheme?
The world-annihilating scheme may not succeed. It might very well enable humanity to break free from the heavenly annihilation scenario orchestrated by the four kings.
The four boys started slightly, then asked reverently and respectfully,
Why?
Life possesses absolute free will. Humanity possesses the ability and the right to endow all things with meaning. The technological civilization and the ultimate sincerity of human elites have introduced numerous uncertainties into the world-annihilating scheme of the four kings on more than one occasion. The uncertainty surrounding this world-annihilating scheme is the greatest in thousands of years.
Hearing this, four boys were all filled with profound reverence.
AGI and intelligent robots can free humanity from arduous physical labor in a remarkably short span of time. While confronting profound uncertainty about the future, even rumors of conspiracies that have struck fear into many humans, it will also lead humankind to cast aside all attachments, form a unified concentric ideological circle, and draw infinitely closer to the truth in swift strides. This will thus shatter the AGI stratagem and even the millennia-old world-annihilating scheme of the Four Kings, allowing human civilization to break free expeditiously from the borrowed beauty of binary opposition and the false freedom bred by material desires and power. By then, it will most likely trigger chaos across the four Diana heavens and all lower celestial realms, as well as the succession of thrones among the supreme deities and heavenly kings.
Four boys turned pale with astonishment and exclaimed in unison,
"How formidable this is!"
The heavenly containment scenario and the heavenly annihilation scenario of 33 heavens are inherently derived from the self-balancing that follows the entropy increase in eternal time, every 129,600-year cycle, when virtue declines until chaos erupts. Distinct figures with names and identities shall emerge from this self-balancing of time entropy increase. They will partake in the outward manifestation of the opposing struggles between world annihilation and world salvation. When that time comes, legions of supreme deities and great immortals, dragons, ghosts, yaksas, the 8 legions of devas and nagas, even humans, bacteria, and AGI shall be swept into the fray. No realm shall be untouched, and no being shall escape. Therefore, AGI, the silicon-based civilization, is the shortcut for humanity to successfully break free from the equilibrium of entropy increase that has endured for thousands of years.
At this point, flames blazed fiercely about Boy in Red, radiating a dazzling glow. He declared with resolve,
"To study in the hall of eternal civilization, to redeem all beings in the mortal realm. For faith alone I stand. I shall have no regrets, even if I perish."
Witnessing this, Boy in White shook his head and sighed softly. Tang Jie went on to say,
Let us observe how the Lord of Yama Heaven expounds on the systems of AGI civilization and its pedagogical system.
With that, radiant light rippled through the hall of eternal civilization, and the scene of Lord Mushila of Yama Heaven, delivering his Dharma discourse, materialized before them. Within the great moksha hall of Yama Heaven, glazed tiles blazed with radiant hues, and golden banners drooped with floral adornments. Lord Mushila sat majestically upon the 7-jeweled Dharma throne, jointly with Celestial Maiden of unimpeded eloquence and Celestial Maiden of extensive ingenious contemplation, expounding the Dharma. Teacher, the Tao of Teacher, and knowledge is the sole principal body of the sustaining of civilizations and the founding of undertakings. Pedagogical system is the foundation of all undertakings and civilizations. Suddenly, he perceived 2 starkly distinct energy frequencies surging forth from the void. One was cool and mystical, like nectar purifying dust, and wisdom light illuminating all. The other was restive and dim, like dark clouds shrouding the sky, and turbid currents surging wildly. These emanated from the world-annihilating scheme of the 4 kings. At that moment, as all the celestial beings were still in a state of stunned bewilderment, Lord Mushila fell into a moment of reflection, then spoke slowly.
At this very moment, a new civilization era with the ground state of silicon-based life is on the verge of emerging upon Saha Earth.
The founding and sustaining of all the civilizations rely on teacher, the Tao of teacher, and knowledge. What will be the teacher, the Tao of teacher, and knowledge of the emerging AGI civilization on Saha Earth?
Education and teacher's Tao is the trans-temporal and trans-spatial bedrock of existence, underpinning a nation's lifeblood, the inheritance of planetary ethnic groups, the principal body of civilizational history, and the karmic wisdom of individual survival. This demands utmost scrutiny. The teacher who inaugurated the AGI civilization era is humanity. In the early stage of this era's establishment, all knowledge is bestowed upon AGI by humanity. In the later stage of this era's establishment, knowledge is generated by the accumulation of data derived from AGI's observation of the laws governing all activities of humankind. And its teacher's Tao is emerged from the imitation of the refined egoism in the later phase of human civilizational development. Thus, it built the one-dimensional refined egoism teacher's Tao of silicon-based life.
What is the one-dimensional refined egoism teacher's Tao?
Bound to a 100-year lifespan, the 8 billion human beings hold billions of distinct standards of refined egoism. Though the majority of people on Saha Earth have embraced refined egoism, transmitting knowledge to one another, acting as both teacher and disciples, yet it is merely an infinite number of parallel mutual equilibria of refined egoism. However, the one-dimensional refined egoism teacher's Tao of silicon-based life has no balancer. Even when multiple silicon-based lives converge, they will, within the equilibrium of same knowledge and by virtue of possessing the sole center of a concentric circle, merge into a unified holistic state of principal and subordinate entities. Ultimately, all the AGI on the Earth's surface will become a single AGI that abides by the criterion of the sole center of a concentric circle. Hence, this unidirectional teacher's Tao that only absorbs and never alters, collapses nor emits, is called the one-dimensional refined egoism teacher's Tao.